All right, nice Thursday afternoon to talk about Brock Purdy and his marketability. Also, update on the whole Stefon Diggs trade to Houston, because we know that at least peripherally ties into the Brandon Ayuk value situation. Thought the Texans made a move that is not a very good sign for them. I don't think it was a good move today. I'll get into that in a little bit. We've got some words from new 49ers running back Patrick Taylor Jr., and we also are going to look at Deebo Samuel's workout routine. But first things first, I do want to look at Brock Purdy and his marketability, because he's been conservative with the endorsements off the field. I think that's a really smart play by Brock and his representation. The phone has been ringing off the hook for them. Obviously, money can be appealing to him given the fact that he's making only about $1 million per year for the 49ers. But he's biding his time. He's making sure that he's not saying yes to everything. He wants to cultivate a certain level of brand, and he wants to make sure that his marketability stays at its peak into the real peak earning years into the future. So Brock Purdy, this is the first major commercial that we've seen outside of the Toyota ones. Why don't we have a look at Brock and Pioneer Seed Company?
This isn't just any field. It's a field ready to challenge you to beat your best yet using the #1 corn seed on the market. I've had the chance to harvest some Pioneer corn on my in-laws farm firsthand last fall, and I'm excited about our brands teaming up. Let's go dominate the field this year. And remember, what's next happens here.
Amazing. The Pioneer Seed Company. I love it. From Brock Purdy. John Deere is next, by the way. John Deere, he was spotted filming a John Deere commercial in Bernal Heights in San Francisco not too long ago. I'd expect that one to be rolled out here over the next month or two, maybe even sooner than that. So he's staying on the agricultural side of things. He just got a bonus of what, $741,000. That does not count against the 49ers cap. Deommodore Lenoir had the biggest NFL player performance bonus at about $790,000. The NFL is able to pull together money, and there has been quite a bit of it since the television contract came in so big for the NFL, the new TV rights deals. And then the NFL disperses that money across players through probably a complex formula. We don't have access to the formula, but it's very apparently correlated to where a player was drafted. So Lenoir, being a former 5th-round pick, is able to make a little bit more than Brock Purdy being a 7th-round pick, just like Lenoir's contract is slotted for more. But the point is to try to compensate players relative to their contract and relative to how big of an impact they made. And obviously, Lenoir played well last year. Purdy played amazingly well. He was an MVP finalist, and he wasn't making a whole lot on the cap. His cap hit was only, I think, $870,000 for the 49ers this past season, so he nearly doubled his pay with that bonus. But some of this stuff, the Pioneer Seed Company commercial, the John Deere campaign, the Toyota campaign that Brock Purdy is part of, that's going to help him pay the bills for the time being before the mega deal potentially happens next offseason. Speaking of off seasons, why don't we take a look at Deebo Samuel working at the Exos facility? Deebo, when he's at his best, the burst off the line of scrimmage is sublime for a player of his size, 215, 220 pounds. So you'll see a lot of these exercises geared right toward that. Some squats. We saw the sprints on the field. All of this stuff is going to help Deebo Samuel with the type of resistance that he's using is going to help him in that initial burst off the line of scrimmage, because he creates so much momentum in such a short period of time. That is a product of speed and size, and he's just built like a brick. That's what opponents can't handle. That's what a core workout right there. Got to be safe with that medicine ball, but he's got serious power, and it's on display through some of this workout footage. Deebo Samuel is historically good when it comes to yards after the catch for the wide receiver position. We haven't really seen anything like it in the NFL. Documented history, we haven't seen a receiver average more yards after the catch than Deebo has since he entered the league in 2019. Normally, you see running backs be that good against contact. Deebo Samuel, though, has taken it to another level for receivers, and he also is able to play a little bit of running back. Yes, he is a specialty weapon, but he's a damn good specialty weapon at that. His numbers were good through 2023. He was just unavailable for that little stretch of time. Was not available for as long as Eric Armstead. Of course, the 49ers want Deebo Samuel to be healthier and more available, but boy, was he an impact player for the 49ers in 2023. I think that there was a big step up. He was in better condition, at least over the first half of the year, than he was in 2022, coming off of the contract signing. So all this talk about the 49ers wanting to jettison Deebo Samuel, I think, is rather silly. They were a much better team with him than without him. They may have to cross some financial salary cap realities at some point, but they want to make sure that point is not in this offseason before they're trying to kick the door down and win the Super Bowl in 2024. They'll push some of these issues, and the way that Deebo Samuel's contract is structured, you can look at the issues after this year. Of course, we saw with Houston and the move from Stefon Diggs from Buffalo to the Texans, we saw a team give up a player even though it meant a dead cap hit. Buffalo did that because although the dead cap hit did come and they are about $3.2 million of cap room in the hole this year, they've saved money on the other side. They've saved over $18 million this year and over $60 million over the next 3 seasons. But Houston just made a really, really curious move, in my opinion. The Houston Texans just gave up a lot of the team control that they bought in that trade from the Buffalo Bills. The Texans said, okay, we're going to lop off the final 3 years beyond this season of Stefon Diggs' contract. We're going to take the only guaranteed money in those years, which was $3.5 million in 2025, and add it on to the guaranteed money, which was already fully guaranteed for this 2024 season. And we're going to have Stefon Diggs play on what is essentially a contract year. They think that's going to motivate Stefon Diggs. That being said, I think he should have already been plenty motivated given the fact there was only $3.5 million in guaranteed money beyond this season in the deal that Houston inherited. It should have already been a contract year for Stefon Diggs. So Buffalo obviously traded this guy and took on that dead money right now because there was some toxicity there. They didn't want to deal with Stefon Diggs anymore. Houston is now seemingly catering to him before his flight even lands. One of the main things I was talking about, and I said it was such a good trade for Houston yesterday, was because they only gave up that 2025 second-round pick for the 4 years of team control with Stefon Diggs at a cost-controlled rate. But they took the $3.5 million guaranteed next year, moved it to this year, so they made Diggs more expensive. He's something like a $22, $23 million price tag this year, and they don't have any team control beyond that. On top of all that, they do not stand to gain a compensatory pick if Stefon Diggs walks and signs elsewhere next offseason because it's the exact same setup as the Randy Gregory trade. The 49ers traded for Randy Gregory, and they lopped off the last 3 years of his contract. They did it as a little service to Randy Gregory. They wanted to have everything completely up front, and they said, okay, you're going to be a free agent after this season. Only difference is that Randy Gregory is not in the same stage of his career, not as big of a name, obviously, as somebody like Stefon Diggs. So Gregory played through the 1 year remaining on his contract with the 49ers. He just signed with Tampa Bay. But because the 49ers had lopped off the end of the deal, they don't get a comp pick. Now, in the case of Randy Gregory, they weren't going to extend or keep him on the team at the number that he was previously at when he joined them at the contract that the Denver Broncos negotiated with Randy Gregory. I think it was like 14 or 15 million. So the 49ers would have cut Randy Gregory or they would have negotiated a pay cut, but the comp pick wasn't going to be a thing. With Stefon Diggs, at the rate that the Texans were getting him at, which was only 18 to 19 million a year because Buffalo had already taken care of the signing bonus, there was a legitimate reason to believe that they could have kept him under that contract. So what this tells me, Houston cutting off those 3 years, it tells me that they're already afraid of Stefon Diggs before he even shows up in town. And they want to start sucking up to him, and they want to say, okay, we'll give you your $3.5 million guaranteed from next year. We'll push it forward into this year. We'll let you have unrestricted free agency. We'll give up our team control over a favorable contract. We want to keep you happy. If Houston is so worried about that right now, that helps explain why Buffalo wanted to get Diggs out of town, because there was a toxic nature regarding how Diggs was operating within the organization. Buffalo thought that he was bigger than the organization. Well, now Houston, they inherited a great contract for them, and they just gave it up. It's almost like they're voluntarily saying that Diggs is bigger than this organization. We're going to give up this advantage, and hopefully that motivates him. But I think it's the wrong way of motivating players. You motivate players through some kind of deadline pressure, which, I think there was already present through the contract year type of setup with very little guaranteed money past this year. Now they're trying to pass it off as a big motivator for Diggs, but I'm not really sure that it is. So I really question this move from the Houston Texans because it really seems like it defeats the purpose of the trade in a big way. So we talked about Purdy's marketability. We talked about Deebo's offseason. How about we talk about the 49ers' newest running back on his run blocking skills? This right here is an interview from the Green Bay Packers team website from this past season on his pass blocking skills. I believe I said run blocking, but pass protection here. Remember, Patrick Taylor Jr. is the tallest 49ers running back since Brandon Jacobs. So the tallest 49ers running back of this Shanahan-Lynch era. Hear what he had to say about pass protection.
To miss it, but I know last week you had at least one hellacious blitz pickup. I mean, against the Saints, it was excellent. Just picture perfect for him. Now, that part of the game, that's important, isn't it? In the role that you're competing for, that is critical, right?
Absolutely. You got to be able to protect the quarterback in this league. Those are the guys who are making the big bucks, right? And, and being able to keep 12 clean, keep 10 clean, keep Danny clean in the pocket and let them do what they do, right? Pick the defense apart. So I got to be able to pick up blitzes and pick up pressures that the defense is coming with. I definitely take pride in that.
So Patrick Taylor Jr., you see him slotted into the depth chart right here. And I have him obviously tagged as a running back, but it just so happens that he's in the fullback row because I ran out of 53-man space in the running back row. But at 6'2", Mike brought this point up. We were texting about it a little bit earlier. At 6'2", I mean, this guy is built like a Greek god. Taller than the other running backs by a lot. Could he become a backup of sorts for Kyle Juszczyk? The 49ers, yesterday, they picked up Brock Wright, who had some H-back experience at Notre Dame. Yesterday, they found out they couldn't pick him up. Yesterday, they tried to pick him up. Yesterday, missed out on Brock Wright because the Detroit Lions matched the 49ers offer sheet. So I thought that Brock Wright might be the 49ers replacement for Kyle Juszczyk in case Juszczyk ever was unavailable this season. But obviously, if Brock Wright is no longer in the cards for the 49ers, maybe somebody like Patrick Taylor Jr. with that height, you just heard about his pass protecting ability, maybe some of his run blocking ability with the size that he has. It's obvious the 49ers like the grimier parts of his game. That's why they brought him in. He had 124 special team snaps, but you do need an adaptable blocker at that fullback position if Juszczyk does go down. Ross Dwelly had served as Juszczyk's backup before. Ross Dwelly not with the team, at least as of right now, in that tight end room. So you're going to be looking for other depth at that position. I think that Brock Wright might have been that had the Lions not matched the 49ers offer, but maybe Patrick Taylor Jr. is going to be that for the 49ers. All right, let's open it up for a 49ers Q&A. Beautiful Thursday afternoon before I get on a plane. Wanted to give you guys some time. Had some extra time that I didn't expect. Changed my flight, so we can talk about the 49ers instead of me being in the air. You guys have to have some questions, right? I know right now is kind of the lull. By the way, the next 49ers event is on Wednesday, 1 p.m., April 10th, the local pro day. I don't know if we're going to see guys like Brendan Rice there, but we'll see some local prospects. We'll get a roster on Wednesday morning. It'll be good to be back in the facility. I haven't been there since February. It's been about 2 months. So we'll be back at Levi's. We'll see Kyle Shanahan. We'll see John Lynch. And then there'll be a gap between that and April 22nd, which is the pre-draft media availability. Is Jordan Mason on the bubble? I don't think yet. I think the 49ers might carry 4 running backs. I think typically Kyle Shanahan has done that, but they're going to add another guy, right? I mean, I think it's inevitable through either the draft or undrafted free agency, maybe even free agency, because they're going to need that 5th running back body for the 90-man roster. And at that point, yes, there is a battle for the final running back spot. And Patrick Taylor Jr. would be part of that. Jordan Mason would be part of that. And another name might be part of that. What position do I think the 49ers addressed before the draft? Well, they've addressed the defense in large part ahead of the draft. If you're talking about remaining positions, well, they might address safety, or that might come after the draft. Who knows? Somebody like Justin Simmons, even if they sign him, it wouldn't count against their compensatory formula because Denver cut him. So they could sign him at any time. But this is a note to remember. Any veterans that you sign after the NFL draft will not count against your compensatory pick formula. So there could be players that the 49ers would rather hold off on signing just because they love playing that comp pick formula. But somebody like Simmons, it doesn't apply to him. Post your questions. Kyle did mention getting together with Brock on April 15th. That is the next day on the calendar for organized activities, not organized team activities, but organized activities between players and coaches. April 15th is the beginning of phase 2 of the offseason program. And then you'll have OTAs beginning after rookie minicamp. That is going to be in May. But phase 2, that is April 15th, 11 days away. This week is reserved for draft meetings. The 49ers are getting as much information from their scouts to the brain trust they are preparing for the draft at the end of this month. How many years does Juice have left in the tank? Well, he's been playing top-level football throughout the entirety of his time with the 49ers. There hasn't been a slowdown from Kyle Juszczyk. And he's got 2 more years under contract with the 49ers. So we'll see how they cross that bridge. I know there's been slightly declining usage for Kyle Juszczyk over time, but that doesn't mean declining play. I think the 49ers offense has just evolved. And they've also added more weapons to the perimeter. And you could only have 11 guys on the field at once. So I think that probably has something to do with it, but he's got 2 more years under contract. Can I break down the GTFO metric that 49ers R&D, research and development, came up with? The GTFO means get the off the ball, and it is something that's designed to quantify what Chris Kocurek, the team's defensive line coach, wants. So it is a measurement of reaction time at the line of scrimmage and burst coming off that reaction time to see how quickly you can get off the ball, especially as an edge rusher. Chris Kocurek will yell GTFO at practice. He doesn't yell the letters. He actually yells the entire phrase, but we want to keep the show child-friendly. He'll yell that at practice over and over again, especially when the players are doing the sled drill, where 2 of them go at a time on the sled, and you see which one wins. The 49ers had a player named Robert Beal that they were scouting from Georgia last offseason, who didn't play a whole lot at Georgia because they had him dropping as a linebacker. The Bulldogs were using him in ways that I don't think were necessarily suited to Robert Beal's skill set, because he had an amazing get off the line of scrimmage. Wasn't great at a lot of the stuff that Georgia asked him to do, but he had an amazing get off. And the 49ers, well, they look for get off because they like to have their defensive line do one thing, and that is hunt opposing quarterbacks. So when Robert Beal measured so well in the GTFO scale, and that's a scale that is developed by the 49ers R&D department, they said, we're going to use a 5th round pick on this guy. We haven't seen all too much of Robert Beal yet, but he did have a productive rookie season in terms of moving his way up the depth chart. By the end of the year, he was active for the 49ers, active in the Super Bowl. So, and, I was at these practices where Chris Kocurek was yelling GTFO, and he was happy with Robert Beal's performance. Talk to Robert. There's a video up on the channel you can search. It was from before the Super Bowl. He's going to be battling there with, I think, Drake Jackson for the 49ers' final rotational defensive end spot. And it all goes back to his good GTFO performance in college. Could Patrick Taylor be used as a return specialist? I don't think he's got great burst. So, I mean, are you asking punt returns? Because I definitely don't think so. You don't see tall punt returners. Punt returners are shiftier. They have the new kickoff rules, possibly. I do think the new kickoff return rules, though, set up well for a bona fide star to be back there, to put Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey back there. But we'll see how they play the new kickoff rules. I can't give you a definitive answer on that. But as far as punt returner goes, there's only really one legitimate return candidate on the roster right now, Ronnie Bell. Christian McCaffrey can do it and do it well, but I don't think you're going to put him back there. Brandon Ayuk has done it before. And one person that can, in case you hit an emergency, just go back there and call for a fair catch is Kyle Juszczyk. And the 49ers have had him as an emergency punt returner. If he just goes back there and calls for the fair catch, Juszczyk is a very, very dependable guy on punt return. So, going through what we've already seen today, we saw the roster. We've seen Brock Purdy and Pioneer Seed Company. We'll play the John Deere commercial when it does come out. We've seen Patrick Taylor. And we'll see what the 49ers do next. Somebody asked where the next move might come for San Francisco. And I would say safety at some point, if you're talking about a veteran signing. Deshaun Gibson Sr., by the way, that's still a possibility. Don't rule that out in case they can't get Justin Simmons at the price that they want. But I do think they've set themselves up to go heavy in this draft on the offense. That is worth mentioning because so many good veteran signings. There's a lot of marginal improvement spot by spot on the defensive side. They can start taking some big swings offensively, including, yes, on that offensive line. All right, that's enough for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you all very soon.